Hello and welcome to another live stream here on the channel. Talking a little bit about jazz guitar, improvisation, chord symbols. I'm going to talk a little bit about naming conventions a bit today. Brought the solid body in today. And so I'll start out by maybe doing a little bit of noodling. Talk a little bit about blue bossa. It's a great tune and really accessible, across all levels of kind of experience and playing and stuff. So good tune to talk about, work on. So I'll do a little playing, but I welcome your comments and questions, even if you're watching watching this after the fact. Leave a comment. Tell me how you're doing on stuff. So let's talk a little bit about chords and blue bossa and some general things I would just kind of suggest from my my experience on them. So you may have noticed or heard. I thought, well, let's stick this chord in here as just kind of an example, and then I went to the D flat. I went into like a 6 chord or 6/9. So I thought I'd take that in and use that as an example of some perspectives on playing. So this tune, blue bossa, has two basic key signatures. We have the key of 3 flats, and we're on the relative minor in that key, and we work through some chords in that key area. And then we get into this part where we go into the D flat. So you could think of key of 5 flats and the relative major in that key center. So I thought I'd throw this in here just to sort of make sort of a point of naming conventions and different things like that. So if I play this this chord here, which has a major third in it, flat 7, and then this note here, what we call it, a flat third, because if from the A flat, right, you would think, okay, well, maybe the interval is kind of like a minor third, but we've already used this third here, so when possible, we'll try not to use the same number or note name twice in a row if possible. So you would call this a sharp 9, right? And really, it's kind of out of the key center too, so which is another reason why I thought this might be a good example So how do we, kind of maybe justify that sound? Well, we can reach outside of the key center without any issue. We could play, let's say we play a E flat minor 9, and then we go into A flat 13 with a 9. So that's all kind of in the key. But what if we want to create a little additional motion? Okay, so then all of a sudden we're kind of maybe moving outside of it a little bit, and that's okay. So then we can move into a little motion on that. So, or maybe this chord, like a major 13 on D flat. So, if you have, let's say, something called the altered scale, it gets a little tricky because you might say, well, the altered scale, if I go by what Jim said earlier, that maybe I'll just only use one number and then just not use it again, right? So if I go up, let's say this is also called super low green, if you want to look that up. It's a mode of the melodic minor scale. So let's say, okay, root, flat 9, flat 3, flat 4, flat 5, flat 13, flat 7, and then the root, right? So there I used every number, and I would say kind of technically that is correct. But when we play this in the context of a tune, this note here, the C is generally going to be the third of it, not the flat 4, right? So in that case, we will have two 9s, right? We'll have a flat 9 and a sharp 9, and then a third. And then this note, sharp 11, flat 5, it's the same note. Okay, this one, sharp 5, flat 13, same note. And then the flat 7. Right? So, when you're naming chords, I often myself will kind of prefer something that seems like it's in the context of the key or the function of the tune. But sometimes it just kind of like the maybe the theory and the numbers, it does have moments where it kind of breaks down a little bit, right? So if you're playing so another one on dominant 7th chords, another one is to use the octatonic scale. So if you're playing all these notes up here, okay, then and you're starting to name them, and maybe I'll go back down here a little bit lower. Hope this isn't getting too technical, but drop me a line and chat with me a little bit. Get me off this topic. But so if you're naming all these notes, right? Then we're gonna run out of numbers, because this one's an 8-note scale and most things are built on 7 notes. So when you're kind of going through this, so root, flat 9, flat 3, flat 4, okay, sharp 4, 5, 13, flat 7, right? So do you call this flat 9, sharp 9, 3, right? Sharp 11, 5, 13, flat 7. So, just kind of, sometimes you're just going to need more than one number, right? So flat 9, sharp 9. So anyway, so hopefully I kind of get the point of that across a little bit, but so if so one of the questions had to do with the G7, and I named it a flat 13 on here, right? Because if you count it up, you would have, let's say I'm using Phrygian dominant, so you would have a root, flat 9, third, 4, 5, flat 13, and then flat 7, and then the root. Right, so then you're kind of in the context of that. So, and Phrygian dominant is a really good kind of go-to sound on 5 to the minor 1. So, but I'll mention too that you can do all sorts of stuff. You can play altered type lines or scales, and do all that. All right. Well, if you're enjoying this, haven't already subscribed, please hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications. I've been doing a midweek live stream here for a few weeks and plan to continue on in this way. And also join me on Sunday mornings at 10:30 a.m. Eastern time for more kind of guitar chats. Let me reflect back on some of the shorts that I've been doing recently and some plans that I have for upcoming videos. So over the weekend, I did a few shorts on YouTube Shorts. If you haven't seen these, they're on your Shorts feed on the app, but you can also see them on desktop. I've also seen them on the Roku kind of YouTube app as well. So so yeah, I did a little examples of some comping on some typical patterns for Brazilian tunes, and broke those down a little bit. I made a one where I just kind of compiled quite a few, just repeated them each one time, and I did maybe 3 or 4 patterns with rhythm section. And then I think the next one I did was just kind of a basic pattern. So here's a nice chord that you could use to practice, which doesn't kind of fatigue the hand too much. Now, some kind of cool things that you can do with this, if you feel like you got that pattern going, and you just want to have a little more fun with it, try taking the 3 fingers and moving them over, to when we go. So like, or doing, this would probably sound, I might prefer this one. So you do like strings 2, 3, and 4, and then strings 1, 2, and 3. So so I'm just kind of swapping kind of sets of strings there. And then you can also alter the bass. So so that you can kind of branch out with it and do a little walking, well, not really walking bass, but kind of like. Alternating bass thing, which is really kind of a nice effect on it. And then I think what it was, what was it? Sunday night I did a little playing. I think it was Sunday night. Not that it matters, but on Blue Bossa, I thought I'd do a little playthrough with bass and strumming. On that, working through the tune. So that's a real fun thing. So I hope you enjoy that. I hope you took some concepts from that. But that's why I followed that short up with the basics of some of the chord shapes that I was using. So if you're playing this, and I'll mention that Blue Bossa is kind of not really a bossa nova tune necessarily, but kind of even eighths, so you can give it kind of of course a Latin sort of vibe. So, but you don't, I wouldn't feel necessarily obligated to kind of play a real, necessarily like an authentic sort of bossa nova thing, but kind of have fun with it, get into a groove like that, and then see if you can alternate the root note, root fifth, right? And then, same thing, F. Right? Minor 7 flat 5, be a little careful on this one. Because it does have a flat 5. Using the same fret will be in conflict with the sound of it. So you go a fret down, fret to the towards the headstock. Okay, so then you can play this kind of voicing. So you may notice my finger, if you watch that short, it moves over this way. Another thing about this voicing is that you want to avoid the natural 13, because that'll be in conflict with the minor quality of the key. So that's one reason to mention the flat 13. Now this is kind of a cool thing here too, to play. I believe I played this, probably did. This chord, which kind of looks like and you might say it is, a D flat 9, right? So at least that moment in time. So, right, so that gives you the bass motion. It's gonna have a really strong pull to this chord. So. So also playing your chord a little bit before your bass note, a 16th note before, or even earlier. So notice when I go from here, I play, right? So I'm a little bit before that note. So that's a nice sound too. And then of course we go to the next one. I'll mention too that I am putting together a new podcast episode that should be out later tonight. I'm not sure if I have shorts lined up or not, short videos, but I'm gonna make an effort to do that, and So as you're working through this, just try to think of, in terms of those key centers and those uh, and check out the circle of fifths and kind of keep that out so that you kind of have an idea of what's going. So your chord changes aren't uh, floating in your idea. They if they have some context to like what they do, then how they function, then they'll probably stick a bit more, I would say. So we have a key of 5 flats. So play E flat minor 9, A flat 13. Now I didn't do this, but this is a nice thing that you could try. I didn't do that, at least in that video. Sometimes I do it, but create a little motion here, right, into the D flat major 9. Okay, that creates a little line there, like, right, similar to what we talked about with this. Or like this. So a few ideas there. All right, well, let's see. I don't have a lot of folks chatting today, but if you didn't get a chance to see this live, leave a comment and a question. Remember to, or please like and subscribe if you are kind of getting some value out of this and maybe learning some things. Do have a member area here too, and so check that out. We'll be adding some videos, things to that as we progress through the week here. All right, and yeah, I'll mention too that the podcast has a video version, which I release for the lessons and talks folks. So you can check that out there if you feel like you benefit from the visuals. But I do make an effort to keep that kind of an audio only friendly kind of format. So I do try to put my best effort to explain everything there. So all right, well, maybe I'll do a little more kind of noodling around here, and let me know if you have any questions. I'll be here for another, let's say, 5 minutes or so. Okay. All right. Welcome, Andrew. Yeah, you're most welcome. Thanks for chatting. Um, just discovered your materials and you've been really helpful. Okay, glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. Yeah, so um, yeah, hopefully it's not overwhelming for me to kind of talk all these numbers and all this theory and everything, which I kind of bombarded folks with, I think, at the beginning of this talk. But my apologies if it did. But kind of some of the point to what I was mentioning it is that the naming conventions, follow some rules, but it's gonna, in a sense, break down a little bit at times, and there's sometimes some dual names, um, you could have a different, even just different chord symbol conventions. Sometimes MAG is written for major, MAG 7 for major 7, but sometimes it's triangle 7. So some of those things can be really confusing, I think for folks. But yeah, there are some what are called inharmonic differences when it comes to note names. So sometimes you might want to call a B natural a C flat, and that depends on the context, right, of the harmony. There's some times when you wouldn't, want to do that, right? So let's say we have C harmonic minor. So this would be B natural and then C. So make our best effort to use 7 distinct note names, and then try to think, generally in context of the tune, and thinking in key signatures. Key signatures are, I think, really helpful for folks. So because there's just so many kind of chord scales and modes. I think if folks thought more in key signatures, it would kind of simplify it, because a lot of times you're just really in the same group of notes, but it's just relating differently to a chord in that key. Okay, I got the Fret Prince mug here. Maybe I'll explain a little bit of the name of Fret Prince. So a couple things. So I like the name of it, and it's kind of a made up word, really. But there's a song called Footprints, so that's just kind of cool. So it's kind of similar there. And then part of my efforts in jazz education or music education is to come up with some visual things, whether video or kind of chord symbols and stuff that can help folks understand, gain some understanding of the movement of notes and where they are and shapes and different things like that. So that idea of print, like a printed page, and frets, so that is part of the appeal on that name. Another issue as far as my given name, Jim Ellis. It's a very common name, maybe not so much among younger generations, but and not even of my generation that much, but of older generations, it's a very common name. So there's swimming coach. There's he's a pretty famous guy. I sometimes meet people named Jim Ellis. There's someone that I see sometimes out in town here. I've gotten mixed up with another person at a doctor's office that I'm not even a part of, but they send me a bill sometimes. I had to clear that up, but um, you know So having that kind of a common name, I wanted to have something unique alongside it, in a sense. So having at Fretprints as the handle kind of helps a little bit with, I think, discoverability in that way. So being that Jim Ellis is not such a unique name, so that's a little kind of history on that. But if you're chatting or sending me a um, text or an email or whatever, Jim is perfectly good. So thanks, Andrew, for writing in. That's really encouraging to get a comment. So I welcome your questions. I've had a few questions recently, which I've um, done kind of a detailed answer on. So I welcome all your questions, relating to your learning journey here on guitar, jazz guitar, improvisation, all that. All right, everybody. Well, thanks again for watching. I do appreciate it. Again, hit the like button, subscribe, turn on notifications, does help the channel. And kind of continuing to grow here and try to reach more folks out there. All right, everybody. Have a great practice session. I'll see you all in the next one.